And that's the real origin of Skibbity Ohio Sigma, my guys. All right. So, here we go. We are obviously talking about, maybe not obviously. What are we talking about? So we did start talking about numbers, but I took a complete side trip. What have we been talking about in biology? Ecology. Specifically, it's how an organism interacts with what? The environment, which includes other organisms, biotic factors, and like the earth and the water and the temperature, which are what? Abiotic factors. So, as we're looking at these, you guys are going to recognize a lot of these words, but we've never formally defined them. And I'm going to ask you guys after we go through what we're looking at today. So it's the 4th of September. Our main topic, we're still in that 2.1. We're going to finish it today. I am certain of it. At the end of 2.1, maybe we'll finish it. We're going to start talking about how do we organize stuff in the natural world. So specifically, we're going to look at levels of organization. Because how we talk about ecology and like the world at large, there's a there's a huge amount of variation. I could be an ecologist and I could study specifically this type of ant, right? I might look at whatever that type of ant and everything about it. Now, there's going to be somebody else who says, oh, well, that type of ant is cool and all, but I actually care about all the stuff around it, right? And then somebody goes, whoa, hold on. I don't care about this. I care about the whole forest and how this goes. And you can start getting bigger and bigger while we're still kind of focusing on the same thing. So this is not super formal. We're going to start from real small, like the most specific sort of thing an ecologist could possibly study, and then we're just going to start expanding out, and we're going to make what's up? I don't know. I thought I might have spelled something wrong. Cool. We're just going to start building up, and then I'll help us make a nice kind of visual for this. So, starting at the very, 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 very smallest, if I only study one type of ant or one type of fish, whatever it is, anything that's living and has like the 7 characteristics or 8 characteristics if you count reproduction of life, what do we call those things? Starts with this, an organism. Somebody could study one specific type of organism, right? So we could start all the way down and have the very smallest level of organization is simply studying a single organism. So one specific type. And I'm just going to say one specific life form. Okay. So very specifically, if you want to study like a whole ant pile, that's all fine and dandy. But if you want just to zoom in further, instead of studying this whole colony, what could you study? Ants. Could you, instead of ants, plural, could you study just one specific ant and learn everything you can about that ant? And then maybe compare it to a different one, and you're just looking at one very specific animal. Yeah. Okay, that is the smallest level of organization that you're ever going to look at. Okay, beyond that, we're going to start getting a little bit bigger. For this, most of these are going to be vocab words henceforth, or following, just so you're aware. We have an organism. We've already defined what an organism is. We're not going to go into it further. Okay, you guys all researched a particular organism for your little thing. Bigger than that, we get up to, instead, a population. Okay, if we are looking at a single ant, that's all fine and dandy. But if we want to know how they act together, a whole bunch of these ants, we're going to be looking at an entire population. So by definition, we'll make this as short as we can. Single species in a geographic region. Now, some species and populations, and I wouldn't say populations rather, single species in a geographic region, which means if I want to look at a salmon population in Dutch Harbor, we have several types of salmon here, right? Yes. Right now there's like thousands and thousands of pinks over there in the river. They probably have a lot in common with big pink runs that you'll see down in Juneau, like 1,500 miles away, or maybe even we go further south, maybe the pink runs in Washington. They're the same sort of fish, but are we in the same region if we're comparing pink salmon here to pink salmon in Washington 3,000 miles away? 2,000 miles, 3,000 probably too much. They're different regions, right? The water's warmer, the climate's different, there's different life everywhere. They're same species, but different regions. We would not say they're part of the same population. Now, the population of pink salmon here on our island, do you think in King Cove they're very different? Maybe not. Probably or no. I heard both answers. What does King Cove have that we don't? Forest. And there's big animals that are going to get real big when they eat all these fish. Bears. Might the pink salmon that run in King Cove need to behave and adapt a little bit differently than here because of that extra predator? Sure. So when we look at a population, we want to make sure that geographic region that we're looking at is consistent throughout the entire geographic region. You could make the stretch, depending on what you're looking at, that sure, Alaskan salmon are Alaskan salmon, but they do have different characteristics, right? Okay. Beyond that, we get bigger. A population is all the same species. We're going to go back to our ant example because that one's going to be easier to branch off on. Okay, you could study a single ant at the organism level. You could single a whole colony at the population level. Bless you. Man, I am fighting the urge to just YouTube a bunch of crazy things today. We're going to resist. Okay, for this, if your phone's on, will you please turn it down so it's not ringing? I don't know whose it was, somewhere over here. Don't care, you're not in trouble, just turn it down. Okay, if we imagine we're in the middle of the forest and we're studying an ant colony, is there other life forms that are going to interact with that colony?
Yes.
Absolutely. So we move out of a population because the second we step away from a single species of an organism and start including more stuff, we have to get bigger. So we do get larger. We're going to say that, hey, instead of just one type of species, let's study all these interactions in this place. So we're getting there. We're not there yet. And no, you're good. You're right. It is the environment. But we're going to look at a biological community. And I'm never going to write this word again because it's long. A biological community. And notice, and I really want to stress how these things are just building because they're just nesting within one another. What I mean by that is you take an ant and you say, hey, let's make lots of ants. Boom, you have population. And then, hey, we have a population of all these ants. Let's expand a little bit more and see all the stuff that they interact with. So we have multiple populations now. When we have multiple populations, that's the easiest way to define this. A biological community is simply many or multiple, whichever word you'd like to use, populations in a region. Now, the cool thing about this is they just keep building. With these, is that want to stress that sometimes organisms compete with one another. Sometimes they don't. It doesn't matter for our community. They may or may not compete. So let's say we're in the middle of the forest and it's a rainforest because we don't have ants here. What other animals might you see in that biological community? Predators. Maybe. Like what? Anteaters. I have no idea where anteaters live. Africa is my guess. I don't know though. The things with the ugly long snouts. I don't know what they are. South America maybe? I don't know. Well, maybe. Like that's part of Africa. Probably. Maybe South America, like in the Amazon. I have no idea. We should not Google that right now because I'm going to sidetrack. But any other populations that might be around? Maybe anteaters.
Other insects.
Other insects, absolutely. Other ants, more specifically, sure. Do you guys know any actual types of ants?
I know.
So fire ants, but that's like kind of a vague term because there's stinging ants all over the world. Ant-man. Probably not going to be in this biological community, but you never know. Just kidding. We do know. He won't be there, but I like the idea. Leafcutter ants are it's like the one type of ant that I actually know the name of. They're actually called leafcutter ants. What do they take? So is leaf alive?
Yeah.
Wait, yes.
So would maybe the forest and all the nature and the plants and trees and stuff be part of this community?
Yeah.
Indeed they would. They can or cannot compete with one another. So we're going to keep building up, right? We took an organism, we said, hey, many organisms make a population, okay? Many populations make this big community. Now, everything that we've talked about has been with life. These have all been biotic things that we've just been expanding on. Is it possible that somebody studies the community and the abiotic stuff? Like, yeah, maybe we care about the soil type because it dictates how big of a colony an ant can make. So when we get bigger, still, we go from a biological community, and if we start including all that other stuff, we have now entered an ecosystem. Okay, for this, I'm going to try to be as like short writing as I can. If I'm ever trying to use too few of words that it doesn't really express the idea, will you guys tell me?
Yeah.
If I'm ever writing too much, will you tell me? If I'm writing too fast, will you tell me? If I'm the coolest person in the world, will you tell me?
Yeah.
All right, good. Okay, so let's build this up. We have an organism. Bunch of them makes population. Bunch of populations make a biological community. The natural thought is a bunch of biological communities make an ecosystem. Not quite. Because all of a sudden we're going to think in the same size area. Maybe. We'll see that in a second. But we're just going to say that this is a biocommunity, which, can you tell me what that's short for? Are you guys cool if we just say biocommunity instead of biological community? And we could probably just call it biocom, realistically. Thoughts? Love it? Hate it? Biocom for shorthand? Okay, I would recommend it. I'm going to write mine. You don't have to use my shorthands, but they'll save you time. Okay, if you take a biologic community or biological community and add abiotic factors, which give me some abiotic factors that you might have to deal with ants. Soil, rocks, temperature, wind, rain, all that stuff, right? If you take all of it, you now have an ecosystem. So this is where things can get kind of weird. Ecosystems vary so much in size. Do we have an ecosystem over there at the river?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, do you guys know what a terrarium is? Have you ever heard of, you know what an aquarium is, I imagine?
Yeah.
Aqua for water, terra for
Rocks.
rocks, earth is essentially what it means. So when we're looking at this, I don't know if you guys have ever seen these. This is going to be the one little side trip to Google. Spelling is going to be rough. 2 R's. Terrarium. These things are awesome. People make these. It's just an enclosed region where they can literally put the lid on and never touch it again. And it will grow and keep living and thriving for centuries if you don't break them.
Yeah, I watched YouTube videos with them.
Oh, they're so satisfying. So these are all terrariums, and they're awesome. These ones I wouldn't count because they're open air, but a lot of these, literally, this cork never has to come off, and this thing will keep living. You just put a little bit of moisture, a couple bugs, some plants, and they'll live. Now, does that have an organism in it, you think? Okay, so it has an organism. Do you think that maybe this person put in, like, different types of bugs, and in the soil that they put in, there's bacteria, and now there's different plants as well? So we have a bunch of different populations together, which means within that little thing is a what? It's a biological community. Now, do they add rocks and water and things like that in there as well?
Yeah.
So they add the abiotic factors. So within this little enclosed region, they have essentially formed a what? They have their own little self-contained ecosystem. So these things, which makes it so hard to pick out, they can go super big, like really large. We could consider the coastline around our island as its own ecosystem, an entire coastline. Like, they can be gigantic because our island is like 80 miles long, so there's a lot of space around the outside that's all pretty similar ecosystem because it's all rocks with the ocean water crashing into it. But they can be really small as well, which if you've never watched people make terrariums, I would recommend it. They can be large ecosystems, they can be small ecosystems, like a terrarium. Okay. Other specific ecosystems that you might find. The ocean is large. Okay. There are different regions of the ocean, right? So you have the surface waters where it's nice and warm. You're going to get really bright and colorful things like coral and all those cool fish. Then you start going down, you get all the weird looking things that maybe have like no eyes because they don't need them. It doesn't make sense. Or they have eyes that only pick up light. So you develop these things that just like float out in front of you as bait. Or you keep going down to the little vents at the bottom where it's very specific, where there's a bunch of different animals living with the volcanic vent that comes out of the bottom of the ocean, and you have a really tiny ecosystem within this larger ecosystem. So they range in size wildly. Okay, we only go one bigger. One thing bigger. And my guess, and I hope I could be wrong, can you think of anything larger than an ecosystem? So space, yes, in size, you're absolutely right. Now, when we look at these, notice that we're still in a similar geographic region. So maybe we should put that similar geographic region. Okay, so if I ask about the ecosystem, and we'll pull up a map if we have to. If I ask about an ecosystem in the jungle of, let's say, Brazil, that is the specific geographic region, right? We'd be looking at maybe the Amazon. And by maybe, I mean it would be the Amazon if we're in the jungle in Brazil. Are there other countries or places in the world that have very similar climates and stuff? Similar everything except geography. So maybe, like, that could be an oddly interpreted question, which I probably could have worded better. I'm going to look at maps real quick, and we're going to go to Brazil. We're going to start at Brazil, and then we're going to move on. Okay, so you guys want a fun fact about Brazil first? Okay, is Brazil big?
Yeah.
Like almost as big as the U.S. It's gigantic. Here's a crazy fact, and I'm going to go to layers instead because it's easier to see. This right here, right underneath Guyana in Venezuela, is the northernmost point in Brazil. From that point, if you draw a straight line, every single other country you can touch with a straight line, the closest distance from here to French Guiana, for example, is like this straight line, yeah? From this point in Brazil, every single other country in South America and every country in North America is a shorter distance in a straight line than it is to go from that northernmost point in Brazil to the southernmost state in Brazil down here. It is closer to draw a straight line to touch literally every other country, even Canada. Closer to get from here to Canada than it is to get from here to southern Brazil. Brazil's huge. Okay, that's not the focus. It's essentially on the equator, which is pretty handy. So let's just see. We have tropical rainforest. Okay, that's a very specific ecosystem. Sure. I've never been to Papua New Guinea or Indonesia, but what do you think you'd find there? You would find a hot place, right? You think it's going to be like a tropical forest?
Yes. Very sure.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so those are both tropical forests. They're similar ecosystems. Temperatures are going to be similar, all that stuff. How would we work through Africa? We go through Kenya. Maybe there's not so much tropical forest right here, but as you work through Gabon and the DRC, you're going to find what there? Oh my, tropical forests. Now, these are all obviously very different places, I think, but they all have super similar stuff. You're going to find monkeys, for example, in Brazil. They're going to be part of that ecosystem. Are you going to find monkeys in Papua New Guinea and Indonesia? Probably. You think you're going to find monkeys and things in the rainforest in the Congo and Gabon? Okay, so they're all similar ecosystems, I think we can say carefully, but they're not the same ecosystem. So we only go one step bigger. Ecosystems. Expand one more step until we get to this lovely biome. Okay, a biome is a large group of, what do you think?
Ecosystem.
Boom, large group of ecosystems.
Learned that from Minecraft.
Interesting. Which one?
Minecraft.
No, not which game. Biome or ecosystem?
Biome.
Interesting. How on earth do biomes show up in Minecraft?
Because Minecraft is basically like real life, but it's small. Yeah.
Oh.
Snow. Yeah, there's snow.
So there are different biomes and they use that word?
Yeah.
Cool.
We'll use that word.
All right, awesome. You know what's cooler than Minecraft though? Rocket League Season 16 drops today. So everybody's got a new season. Something about a forest, I don't know. Anyway, large group of ecosystems, but they have to have something in common. Why didn't I include like Uktiakvik in that? Barrow. Why wasn't Barrow in that list that we were talking about as we roll through here?
Bam.
Yeah. I didn't list Barrow in that, right? We talked about all these other countries. So let me rephrase. Why didn't I throw up, let's see, there are rainforests here. Why didn't I say, hey, northern India? So it's actually not. I probably could have included this realistically. I wasn't trying to trick you. It was just an afterthought. Yeah, I just went in a straight line. There's forests in Germany. Are they in the same biome?
No.
Why?
Because
So I'll tell you, there are forests, and you're right. It's not. You're on the right track. Why would I not count the forests in Germany as the same biome as the forest all the way here?
the ecosystem there.
Yeah. Why aren't they the same?
Different animals.
Different animals. Why do you think there's different animals?
Different climates and environments.
The climates and environment part is what I was really after. So as we're looking at this, when we talk about a biome, we have to have a large group of ecosystems with common climate and communities. And biocommunities, rather. Biocom, if you will. Now, there's one more word that we've already alluded to. And notice, we've just built up this whole thing, right? We started from the bottom, now we're here. Right? That's how it goes. All the way up, one could say. I don't know enough other songs to make other references that might make you roll your eyes. Are there multiple biomes on our planet?
Yes.
There's tropical rainforests, for sure. There's tundra biomes, yeah? Like this whole around our planet. Essentially, just make a horizontal line and you'll hit very similar stuff. What do you think we call it when we put all the biomes together on our planet? All of them put together. It's essentially just going to give us all of the large groups of ecosystems all the way around our planet that have different climates and biological communities, but it's all of them. What was that?
Pangea.
Pangea, you're thinking of the old supercontinent.
Yes.
Yes, but there's a better way. What do you call that part on our planet where everything lives? It's a sphere of sorts.
Geotropical.
You're close. Geosphere's the wrong one. Geo's rocks.
Biosphere.
Hemisphere is half of a thing. The biosphere. The biome, all the biomes put together make the biosphere. Now, you don't have to put this one if you don't want to, but we'll just say the biosphere. We said at the beginning of this section that, hey, it's just the places on Earth where life lives. And I'm running out of space, so I'll say all biomes. You put all the biomes together and you get the biosphere. Now, the graphic, if you want it, that I have in my mind. Right now, you guys have probably seen this. On a scale of 9 to 10, how much do you love Venn diagrams?
What's that again?
Okay, so that's all right. Don't commit to drawing this until you like it. What's the biggest level of organization that we have? Okay, so check it out. And well, the biosphere is the big one, right? So I'm just going to do boxes, even though, let's say that this here is the biosphere. And I would label it right here. Within the biosphere, are there smaller levels? Okay, so check this out. If that's the whole biosphere, maybe in here, living within this biosphere, like you just told me, is all the biome. So that means if you have a biome, by this picture, is it part of the biosphere? And I can't tell if this is clicking or not. Again, don't draw this unless it does. What's smaller than a biome? Okay, now we could draw a bunch of them, right? Like I could say, hey, here's this ecosystem and here's another one. If I wanted to, are these ecosystems that I've drawn right here, are they within a biome?
Yeah.
So, like, would you agree that within the biome then, you have all these different ecosystems? What's within every ecosystem? Biological community, so biocom. What would you find within a biocom? You can't see it on my screen anymore. A population? Okay, so check it out, population. Man, if you wanted to study a population, what's going to be inside of that? An organism. Now, this idea, and I ran out of space, organism. In my head, this is how I want to envision it, because literally, it's like those Russian dolls that just nest inside of each other, and it just shows it getting bigger and bigger.
Oh,
You do this with numbers, and you probably did it in middle school where you talked about the real numbers, and then within the real numbers you get the, let's see, within the real numbers you get the integers, and within that you get the rationals, and then you get the whole numbers, and then you get the natural numbers, and they all just kind of nest inside of each other. This, especially if I had to take a test and remember them, that's the single graphic that I would use. Cool. All right, so we could take a quick break. I don't know. Are you guys like feeling you need a break?
Sorry.
Should we do some burpees? Up downs? Lunges? Push-ups?
Push-ups.
You want to do some push-ups?
Sure.
I don't want to do push-ups.
Oh.
Rocket League?
Oh yeah.
We're not playing Rocket League right now. Although there's not many things that, okay, there's a lot of things that would distract me. That's one of them. If you want that picture, I would encourage you to use it, but you don't have to. Cool. So we're going to take a quick 30-second or 2-minute brain break. Bless you. Do you guys like poetry?
Yeah, I love poetry.
I really like poetry as well. I'll tell you, I don't read poetry itself. I read poetry that has music associated with it. I love lyric videos because I can't always understand what everybody says. Do you guys write poetry? Probably some. Have you ever seen this before?
Yeah.
This is a haiku with the stanzas. Now, haikus traditionally, are you guys gamers?
Yeah.
Did you play Ghost of Tsushima?
Oh, I did.
Okay. So if you haven't, that's okay. Haikus, oftentimes, I remember learning about them, and I was just told it was 575. That's what made a haiku. But haikus, to truly be the Japanese art form of a haiku, have to be based on nature.
Yeah.
The cool thing is, what class are we in? Biology. All right, you get 3 minutes to write me a haiku about ecology and anything, just loosely related to ecology. Write me a haiku right meow.